1. I usually count down for 5 because I think it takes like 5 seconds for anyone to
really see anything.
Well, 1, for the bot to even recognize that I'm online.
Yeah.
Um,
So sometimes the bot is very delayed.
yeah, it generally is. It's
Yes.
stupid bot. Anyways, aloha. You can call me Craw. Today is a very special meeting for a lot of reasons. 1, as you can see, it's not just me today. I have 4 amazing people with me because we're going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. We're talking about Toastmasters and Twitch. This is a potential love story for every single person in those 2 industries and organizations to get together and make themselves better. If you're watching this, odds are you're on Twitch and you already know what Twitch is about. I've got 2 amazing people here with me. Brian, if you ask me a question, don't come off. Oh, dogs are barking. Got it. Cool. Heather, thank you for that heads up. I will interrupt for Heather and David's sake. If I see something in the chat, I want to bring it in. So if I say chat, that's what I'm talking to. Yes, so what is Twitch? You all know what Twitch is. And we have 2 wonderful people with us today for Twitch. We have Jessie Cake and we have Chantelle, 2 of my absolute famous streamers. And over here on this side of me, we have 2 of my favorite Toastmasters. We have David Carr and Heather Turner. Toastmasters is a nonprofit organization designed to help people learn to step outside their comfort zones. They do that through public speaking and leadership opportunities and projects. So this is my panel for people, and I'd like to do a little more in-depth bios about each and every one of them, and then we can get started talking about stuff. So let's start in alphabetical order. Chantelle is a friendly Canadian who started streaming when the pandemic hit in early 2020. She loves her cats, public speaking, and has more than 10 years experience in the radio broadcasting, as well as a degree in marketing, sales, and promotions. Please welcome Chantelle.
Hi.
David F. Carr, DTM, which stands for Distinguished Toastmaster. So that's a big deal in the Toastmasters world. Is the founding president of Online Presenters Toastmasters and the founder of WordPress for Toastmasters Project. He's best known as a writer and editor for technology publications. David joined Toastmasters in 2010 at Club Awesome in Coral Springs, Florida, where he remains as an active member. He's spoken internationally in support of his book, Social Collaboration for Dummies. Please welcome David Carr. Down here, we have Heather Turner. She's a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America and has spent more than 20 years in the restaurant business. She's worked in marketing for the last 18 years, working primarily with the hospitality industry. She writes 2 hospitality blogs and is a distinguished Toastmaster, working on her 3rd. That means she is almost going to be 3 times the Toastmaster I am, as well as being a keynote and educational speaker at associations and conferences around the United States. Please welcome Heather Turner. And finally, over here, the person with the shortest bio, Jessie Cake, has been on Twitch for 2 years this March. I'm very impressed with that. She's a full-time nurse with a passion for dance and entertainment. Check her out. She does lots of wonderful stuff. Please welcome Jessie Cake. This way. There she is. Oh my God. So we got cool people in the chat already. So let's talk about why we all got into it. What was the kernel? What is your origin story in the stuff? So let's start in reverse order. Jessie Cake, why did you start? What made you turn on the camera and join Twitch?
Sure. So it goes back all the way to my childhood. I've always been passionate for dance and entertainment. My mom and family would always joke around with me saying, one day I'd end up as some news broadcaster or somewhere out there in the world, showcasing my entertainment skills. And, from when I was young with my sister, we'd create these like shows. And when technology started to grow, we'd create these YouTube videos together. And we were just always very passionate about it. I've always been passionate about dance as well. If you know me, I'm dancing. I hear music, I'm dancing. It's a passion of mine. I danced for 10 years as a kid, became a Zumba instructor, and I instructed during college for 4 years. So I started to play Just Dance again. I was obsessed. When I woke up in the morning, had a day off, I was on the game. There's something called the World Dance Floor where you can compete against other dancers. I was dancing right away. When I woke up, it was kind of a joke in the house how obsessive I became with it, and just still am. And that's really why the camera turned on. I wanted to share my love for the game and entertainment and community with others, and that's where we started. And we've definitely come a long way. My content has been just increasing. I really like to focus on the community and community games because I have fun. My community has fun. We all get to connect, especially during a pandemic where you get to connect with people all over the world, Australia, India, just everywhere. We've met each other, and it's really cool. So yeah, that's why my camera was bought and turned on. Actually stolen from my boyfriend. Well, my first setup, I had a laptop, and it was a webcam, and I actually had the camera pointing towards the TV. I didn't even have a capture card yet. I was like, I need to get on here. It's time.
My husband can feel your pain. He hasn't had much use of the PlayStation since I started streaming either.
Oh, I stole the Switch too.
Sorry.
Whoops.
Heather Turner, why did you start with Toastmasters? What was the kernel that got you speaking?
About 10 years ago, I was speaking at a conference, and I had been speaking to small business groups for a couple of years, and I wasn't really good at it. I think I was a good teacher, but I think I wasn't a very good speaker. And I was at a conference and had done a couple of smaller sessions with people that were maybe a little over my cover level, 30 or 40 people. And the conference coordinators came to me and said, our keynote speaker bailed out. You know all of his presentation material. Do you think you can fill in for him? And I said, yeah, sure. How hard can this be? Because I did know the material. And I got up there, and right in front of the lights were about 700 people, and I froze. And at that point, I went, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And it felt like it took hours for me to actually get going. And I know that there was a lot of pauses and missteps. And I thought, oh my God, that's the most horrible thing I've ever done. And everybody said, oh, that was great content. But I knew it was bad. And they said it was only about a minute or two until you started to get going and talk about things. But I joined Toastmasters because of that, and I fell in love with it because it really helped me not just become a better speaker and better presenter. I used to be really, really shy. I actually just wrote a post about that earlier today. When I was in school, I was voted most shy. I'm definitely not shy now. I'm probably the absolute reverse of that, maybe a little bit to the extreme. But on the other hand, I think I've probably become the people that I always looked up to and admired about the fact that they were outgoing and they were not afraid of anything. And that's most certainly me now. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But Toastmasters has been great because I meet people all over the place. And I've met thousands of Toastmasters all over the world. And this is before we all had to go to Zoom. And it's really neat now that we're on Zoom because you can go and visit any Toastmasters club in the world, which you could do a lot of before COVID. But to me, it's just fun because I meet people that I would never have met otherwise. I mean, I don't think I would ever have met Brian if it hadn't been for Toastmasters. Most of my good friends are Toastmasters now, and we really have nothing in common besides Toastmasters, but they're just awesome people. And it's from a networking perspective, from a business perspective, I've made so many great contacts through Toastmasters that, I mean, it wasn't intentional, but it's a great byproduct of it, and it's cheap. Well, from the perspective of if you're a business owner, I'm a business owner, is if I want to go out and do networking and join a chamber of commerce, it's like $300 a year for a Chamber of Commerce membership, or you can join BNI and spend $800 a year, or you can join Toastmasters and spend $100 a year. So that's kind of a non-starter in that regards. So I think that's probably enough of my time quota, because otherwise I'll just keep going.
That is one
girl after my own heart.
That's a mark of, I would say, not only a Twitch streamer but a Toastmaster, that we can talk and talk and talk.
I have to mute my own self.
David Carr, please tell us the kernel of your truth. What was your origin story, and how did you get into Toastmasters?
Yeah, I was just thinking that the kind of the cliche about Toastmasters is that people join because they're afraid of public speaking and they join to get over their fear. And then after a while, you can't shut them up. So I was one of those people. I don't think I was afraid of public speaking exactly, but I say I probably should have been if I knew actually how well I was communicating. So I'm a writer and editor. I wrote for a number of technology publications, and more recently I've been out freelancing. Right now it's whatever I can pull together. I'm out consulting. I'm available, by the way. I also do web development. But I got into situations where I was leading panel discussions, where I was speaking about various things, where I was handing out awards on stage. And so I wanted to get better at it. So I joined back in 2010 at a local club. I think actually before that, I visited a different local club and I said, these people are weird because they wouldn't use each other's names. They would address each other as Toastmaster Smith and Toastmaster, whatever, which is a formality observed by certain clubs and not others. So I landed with the one that didn't do that, but that met at 7 a.m. in the morning on Friday, which wouldn't interfere with other family things or things that I had to do, other obligations. So it was kind of an open spot in my schedule. So even though I wasn't a morning person, I started going to this club. And because I was technologically oriented, at some point I wound up being in charge of the website, and I didn't like the software that Toastmasters International directs you to set up your club website. So I set up something different on WordPress and then started making that available to other people. So I was sort of into this whole thing about technology and Toastmasters and how do they come together. I was creating videos demonstrating how to use this software that I've set up. And I haven't done Twitch streaming, but I've done some Facebook Live, a little bit of YouTube Live. I met a couple of friends who travel around the country in an RV, and they give lessons on technology for travelers. So they're an interesting couple of people who've made a living off of doing video courses. They do a weekly show every Sunday called "What Does This Button Do?" And also professionally, one of the things I had written quite a bit about was collaboration technology. And one of the things that started happening a few years ago is that you had these collaboration environments that were oriented towards sending a lot of chat messages back and forth and sharing documents. And then sooner or later, they started popping in a little button that said, go to video. So that if you're typing back and forth and you weren't communicating with the other person, you could say, well, let's get on a video call. So that integration of that into the workday experience was something that I transitioned out of journalism into marketing. For a while, I was kind of evangelizing for that concept. And so I became a volunteer among Toastmasters in learning about Zoom, learning about doing online meetings. Most Toastmasters have been dragged kicking and screaming into that world over the past year. And so as the founder of one of the first online only Toastmasters clubs, I suddenly became very popular in 2020, going around giving workshops on how to conduct a meeting in this whole different environment. And what do you have to understand about the technology and what has to be done differently? And
yeah,
BDC and probably Heather know that one of the weird things was usually there's somebody who shows a timing light or timing cars to let you know if you're going over time.
Yeah.
And in the Zoom environment where these little thumbnail images shift all over the place, a lot of times people would lose track of that. So we still keep trying to figure out a better way of solving that problem.
Definitely. And we'll get more into the kind of the Toastmasters meeting as we get through this. Okay, David?
All right.
Cool. Chantelle, what's your origin story? What made you turn on the camera and start broadcasting to Twitch?
So I actually relate very heavily to Jesse Cakes. I was that kid who just was the only kid around in the family. So I was like the first niece, the first grandbaby, the first girl, because my Nana and all of her siblings had all boys. So there was just this like innate, I was the center of the attention anyways when I was little. And my dad will tell you, I was, 2 years old with a hairbrush going, "What's your name? How old are you? What do you do for a living?" I was like, I needed to know who you were. I needed to talk to you. I needed to be involved, and I needed to do something to make you smile and entertain you. And very quickly, Christmas living room recitals with Nana's red drapes turned into me singing. I had a bit of a singing career as a child. From there, that turned into more of like public speaking, and like I ran to be ambassador of the fair and a couple of like local things that required you to learn about agriculture or our community, and then present and create, a presentation to the community about how you would improve that, or how you would work towards making the community better, and how to get the community more involved. And that really just kind of synonymously led, like in a weird way, community and radio sort of just were one and the same. And then for me, I actually lost my voice. I became mute for almost 6 months while I had my own morning show. So I was on billboards and bus shelters. I had worked my way up for more than 10 years. I finally got a morning show. We were about a year and a half into our show, and I lost my voice for almost 7 months. And so in that time, had to relearn how to speak, had to go to voice therapy, speech therapy. It was all a result of muscle tension problems and laryngitis case that just I pushed too far because radio asks that you be there unless you're dead. And so, basically what happened was I lost my career. My boss said, "I don't have 7 months to wait for you to be able to talk again." So, I agreed to part ways. I left, and I thought, well, then I guess I just closed that chapter. But I really, really missed that community, that connection, that sociability. And definitely, like, I hate to admit it, but obviously, like, I like attention, or I wouldn't be on the internet live going, "Hey." So, I was happy to find a platform. And I thought for years about doing YouTube or something like that. Being in radio, we had to go live a certain amount of times a week on all of our social media. So there was the expectation that you were live in your story, or live on Facebook, or something on Twitter, or you were posting, like creating and editing a video of some sort of extracurricular bit to put on the radio station website. So YouTube and that sort of stuff really wasn't foreign to me from that career anyways. But I really was just left with these very bitter and like just emotional wounds, basically, when everything happened the way it did. So I took a couple of years. I got a grown-up job. I thought that's enough of that. And very quickly realized my life wasn't going to be fulfilled without that sort of aspect. So in entered Twitch, completely fluke, really. I just happened to be playing a video game and I was stuck on this thing that I just couldn't figure out. And so I Googled, how do I beat this level? Landed on a channel of somebody in Twitch who I fell in love with very quickly, and was like, wait, what is this Twitch world? And within a week of watching people stream, I had figured out how to get a camera on my face, a microphone set up, and myself in front of that screen. So the rest is history, as they say.
Thank you very much. And I can relate. It's good to have you guys here. And thank you very much, House of Jacobs Gaming, for the raid. You guys shouldn't have. For those who just joined, my name is Carr, or Aloha. You can call me Craw. Today we have a panel where we're discussing Toastmasters and Twitch, a potential love story. I've got 4 wonderful panelists with me. You missed all the introductions, but we're going to get right into the meat of the whole story now. Jesse Cake and Chantelle, you are both Twitch streamers. I'm going to ask the first question to you. What is the most important thing to be successful as a Twitch streamer?
Jesse, you go ahead.
So
I was just babbling.
Here's what I think, because I do think about this often, and I actually talked to my boyfriend Dan about it. I think it really depends on your goal and what you view as being successful. Do you want to blow up and be this huge streamer, top numbers, get to the point where, it truly is entertainment and just that, you have a community, but you can't be friends with 1 million community members. It's impossible. Or do you want to create a community where maybe it's not your goal to blow up, and maybe you don't want to be top streamer on Twitch, and you want to have a close-knit community with a couple hundreds of people that you can get close to and bring together. So I think that's the first place to start, is what is success, right, on Twitch. And then I do think you have to have it in you to want to work really hard, no matter which success you're looking for. I know, Molly, it's true. And and also have it in you to so you have to have the drive. That's it. You have to have that drive to be successful. And then you have to want to put in the work with the drive. So you could have the drive, but are you putting in the work? And you have to have, personally, I think it has to come from a really sincere place in your heart. I do think you have to be entertaining, whether you're entertaining just playing a game or whether you're entertaining just babbling on. I think that's huge. I think there are multiple pieces, but I think the number one is to have the drive to create whatever it is that you view as successful on Twitch.
I would fully agree with what everything Jessie said, for sure. And I think like when it comes to sort of like stripping it back to the like basics of it, I would say number 1, 2 is just like comfortable being yourself, comfortable making mistakes, comfortable saying things wrong, comfortable like having those fumble moments, because it's live. You're live for upwards of 6 hours typically, and comfortable being you, because if you're trying to be what you already see, or if you're trying to, be that Twitch person that you already love and follow that already has a big following, there's nothing to set you apart. There's nothing to market you off of. No one else can be you. And I think that's what uniquely Twitch really offers. I know YouTube obviously does as well, but if you can manage to figure out what really sets you apart from other people and what makes you kind of weird, there's going to be a whole group of people that are going to really love you for it and love that you own it and that you live it. So you kind of have to figure out who you are too, and stay true to that sort of like compass, because there's so many different directions that you can easily be dragged in with Twitch.
Exactly. Now, taking what you guys just said about the skills necessary to become successful at Twitch, David, Heather, does that sound like the type of stuff that, Toastmasters, learning to be authentic, learning to, be honest, make mistakes. Is that the type of stuff that Toastmasters do? Do they make mistakes? Talk to us. As they're both trying to find the mute button, mind
you. All new mistakes, yes. It's definitely the idea that you come to Toastmasters, you practice giving a professional presentation in front of a bunch of people who don't have the power to fire you. And so when you're doing it, when it really counts for the big business presentation or the product pitch, or just trying to get a raise out of your boss, hopefully you're more comfortable with that experience. Now, I have some questions for you, BDC, in terms of what you think this love story shapes up like, because you could do a Zoom, you could do a Toastmasters meeting online on Zoom and simulcast it out to Twitch, but I don't know whether anybody on Twitch wants to watch a Toastmasters meeting. Now, part of what I would hope to get out of participating in an online Toastmasters meeting is comfort and familiarity with the skills that are needed to go online, whether it's Twitch or Facebook Live or YouTube Live. But I am still wondering why I would do something on Twitch as opposed to one of those others that I just mentioned. Because it's more fun?
Because Twitch is set up directly for just live streaming, I think is the argument I would make. Its focus is solely this aspect. So I can zone in. I
Okay.
can narrow down this part. I can show who I am, who my family is on Facebook. I can show pictures of my life on Instagram. I can upload edited things to YouTube with Twitch. My focus, my main thing is it's here and it's now. Here's how you access me.
Okay.
Here's how you can support and help me monetarily benefit from my content.
But
Right?
do
So
you
things
see
like
people
that.
out there from companies doing, essentially streaming out business
Yeah,
webinars
yeah,
on
definitely.
Twitch, or
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
that a good
There's
use for it? I mean, if
there's
Heather wanted to go out and speak about more successful small business, would Twitch
yeah.
be a good place for her to do it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then anybody who maybe is interested in Toastmasters but has no experience can get a sneak peek into what it is, get involved in the chat, maybe ask the questions they wouldn't otherwise have access to, and then be able to participate in a wider format, right? Or stumble upon it by accident, which actually happens a
true.
surprising amount on Twitch as well.
No, that's
Exactly.
interesting. Well, I mean, actually, one of the things that I think Toastmasters need to do more of is get out of their own little bubble.
Yeah.
Because I have been to many Toastmasters organized events where it's a bunch of Toastmasters telling other Toastmasters how wonderful Toastmasters is, as opposed to making an impression on the broader world who don't know what the heck Toastmasters is in the first place.
Right.
Have
So
no
that
idea
could
why they would.
it could
get
easily
involved.
be a chance for you to tap that market, and also younger, right?
That's
I
true.
actually had the experience of Toastmasters once when I ran for ambassador of the fair in my hometown. They give you like a 4-hour seminar, and the guy laughed at me. He was like, "You don't need this. You might as well be teaching this instead of me." But there was a lot that I took from it before I even had the experience in broadcasting. How to say you instead of everyone, or you guys, how to make it seem like we're having a one-on-one conversation when we're a crowd of people, how to keep personal, how to, carry on when I fumble instead of going, "Oh, that was stupid. Why did I say that?" and pointing it out. Like things like that I wouldn't have known without Toastmasters. Now, synonymously really, really helped me here on Twitch in a way that I really wouldn't have thought of.
I mean, there's an educational dimension to it, but I've always thought that it's mostly a learn by doing thing.
You're right.
You get tons of practice. But let me let Heather say a few things.
Thank you, and my apologies. My dogs, I have two of them, and they're really loud. Brian, can you repeat the question?
So basically, kind of the question of Twitch, when we're listening to Chantelle and Jessica talk about what is the keys to success, they're talking about the ability to be comfortable in yourself, being authentic, willing to make mistakes. And the question comes down to, is this something that Toastmasters are practicing? Because ultimately, when I think about what the value of this panel is, to kind of answer David's question, although I am not a panelist, I am a person who is in both those two universes. Twitch, which is, of course, what you are watching me on for the benefit of our audience, and Toastmasters, which is a public speaking and leadership organization. It's a nonprofit organization with clubs in literally every town around the globe. Go to toastmasters.org if you would like to learn more about finding a club near you. That's why we have these two wonderful people over here to talk about.
That was a perfect plug.
There you go.
Nailed it.
These two people over here who are here to talk about Toastmasters, and these two people who are over here to talk about what you need to be successful, because I honestly feel...
You got to quit it with the hand gestures. It's not working.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're not in the box, Brian.
I'm telling you guys, this is working on my stream. On my stream, this is phenomenal.
Okay. Your perspective is the only one that matters.
It really is the only that matters.
And Brian, I had to throw you that one because usually I'm the one moderating the panel, and I usually have to push people a little bit. So I figured I'd give you your 50 cents in the limelight. So
thank you very much, Heather.
So to kind of answer that question, I think it can absolutely, but it really, like anything else, it's going to be you get out of it what you put into it. I've seen people join Toastmasters and they've done it for 6 months. They've gotten what they think they needed out of it, and then they left. But they actually really haven't gotten anything out of it. They've basically just done the homework. They came in, they did the project, they wrote their speech, they stood up in front of the crowd, they gave their speech. They did not take the feedback into account and didn't improve. So just as a perfect example of this, and this has only happened once in 10 years, and I've met thousands of Toastmasters, but I think it's a prime example of that. You know, she went through 30 speeches maybe, and her first speech was almost identical to the 30th speech. She visited a whole bunch of clubs and she just did the projects, but she didn't learn anything. So if you're going to go to Toastmasters, one of the biggest values out of that is not just giving constructive feedback, but actually taking that constructive feedback into account. So if Brian was giving a speech, for example, and he was talking about, you know, we did 1, 2, 3 things, but I said, you know, even if you're on camera, you could still say 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things, just to make more of a point. You know, we're not getting into the overly theatrical part of that, but part of that feedback is to help both the speaking skills and the visual skills. And if we can't see people, we're still working on the tonality. We're talking about making sure that we enunciate properly. We're not saying things like, you know, that stuff, that kind of thing, which drives me absolutely bonkers when I hear that on a webinar, because people are like, well, that kind of thing, what kind of thing is that? What does that mean? Can you give me some examples maybe? So, you know, it's really, you get out of it what you put into it. But yeah, I think that it's very cross applicable in terms of the fact that it's getting up and getting comfortable with this and learning a new skill set. You know, similar to David, I was using Zoom long before we had to go to Zoom. And I ended up both with my own District 53 Toastmasters and a lot of our clubs, teaching them how to use Zoom. But because I'm a SCORE mentor too, our whole chapter and all of the chapters around the United States had to move to virtual mentoring. And nobody else but me, for the most part, in my chapter knew how to use Zoom. So I had to do training for a couple hundred volunteers, which was fun. But, you know, learning these new skills is really applicable to anything. I know I keep circling back to the business aspect of that, but if we have a lot of gamers on here, maybe they might be potential business owners. It's always a good skill set to have, you know, whether you're interviewing someone or you're doing the interviewing.
Well, I've been reading a lot about how the world of work is adapting to this, you know, the whole 2020 phenomenon of everybody being sent to work from home. And, you know, maybe going forward, we're still going to have a lot more people working remotely. How do you have good employee engagement in that environment? And some of the technology analysts over at Gartner have been saying, Gartner's a big IT advisory firm, have been saying, look to the gaming community. We've been talking about how Twitch is more than just gaming, but still, it is a way that people have been discovering, experimenting with ways of building community and being more engaged online. So, you know, look at what you can learn from it, and see if you can't bring that back into the workplace in some way. Yeah, work meetings are all still going to be awful anyways, no matter what you do. But you know, you can try. You can try to carry some of those lessons forward.
I think video game developers specifically have. I think if you're outside of the gaming community, maybe you're not as familiar with it. But I mean, it's a $1 billion corporation for a reason. It generates a lot of money every year. And what they've really done is they've capitalized on being able to figure out how to allow people to virtually live life together as opposed to in person. And that's something that obviously 2 years ago was like, oh, no, we're all going to be like blobs that don't have spines anymore and we're never going to leave our house. But now, in the face of a pandemic, has been something that it turns out, in my opinion, I'm 32 years old. My friends mostly have kids. That's not something that's in the future for me. I have anxiety and I have depression as well. And trying to navigate and manage those things without the typical coping skills that I can employ when I can leave my house and I can go to the gym and I can go hug my Nana. I can't do any of those things right now. So being able to virtually exist with a community of people that make me feel valued and make me feel cared for and are interested in what I'm doing and I'm interested in what they're doing, it turns out is something that's been a very, very valuable resource. And something that I think is valuable for anybody who's in that situation where maybe it's just not always feasible to get out to the movies because maybe you can't afford it, but you can watch this for free and you could watch a movie with a friend, or, you know, things like that. So I think this is where maybe Toastmasters is a little bit different, because it's about not saying stuff like that and being laid back. It's about being more professional. Whereas with Twitch, yes, you want to have that line, but you also need to be personal, and you want to, you want people to want to be there and feel welcome there and safe in your space. And so that kind of involves not being quite so on the professional end of things, I guess. But to me, it's interesting because I think as a society, we're kind of in this weird world where half of us are really tech and we're very involved in that, and half of us are like resisting that side of things. And I get why. And I know it's very millennial of me to think that it's cool that I can hang out on the internet with my friends, but I really do think it's cool.
It really is cool.
Yeah.
I was just saying today, because Rust is blowing up. Rust is a game where there's a lot of role playing. And I'm like, this is taking me back to my childhood when we would play cops and robbers outside.
Yes.
And it's just like, you get to do that in this virtual world together.
Yeah.
And it's so entertaining to watch too.
Yeah.
So it's, and like you said, maybe it's the millennial in me, but I don't know that it is, because I have my mom hooked a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't pigeonhole it to just us millennials. I just think we're the ones that are like crazy enough to just put everything out there online and be like, here I am, take it or leave it. And I actually really love that about my generation.
Yes, definitely.
So
Can I put a response in real quick to
please go ahead,
Chantelle?
Heather. Please.
So I think Toastmasters has an image problem. Well, because, you know, and I think, to be fair, it does have an image problem, because it's, you know, there's this idea out there that it is stuffy, and it's really not. 30 years ago, it was stuffy.
Right.
I visited a Toastmasters meeting when I was 18 because I knew I was shy, and somebody had suggested to me that I join Toastmasters. And I went to the local club in Kingston, New York, and there was like 15 really old white guys. You know, and they were very, 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 very serious, you know, shaking hands, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and, you know, after everything, clap. I'm like, this is really scary. You know? Right. But it's not like that now. I mean, I'm going to give a shameless sales pitch. If anybody's not doing anything this Tuesday night at 6:30 Eastern time, come and join my Cromwell Club. We are fun. Most Toastmasters clubs are fun. We spend a lot of time laughing. It is definitely not stuffy anymore, because I would not be a member of a stuffy club.
But forgive me for implying that too, because I want to renege. I didn't mean it that way. Just to clarify, just so you know.
No, but you know what? I'm really glad that you said that, though, because there is that conception out there by a lot of people. And when you talk to millennials, especially, people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of Toastmasters, but it's like really serious. You know, and well, some clubs are really serious. I mean, it depends on what it's like. You know, my only thing is, if you think you need Toastmasters or you just want to check it out, don't take one club as the end all and be all. Every single club is different. There's 160,000 or something all over the world. You know, just because you don't fit with one, go visit some other ones, because when I first moved up to New Hampshire last year, I visited a whole bunch of clubs, and none of them really sparked my interest that much. You know, I started my own club up here. Unfortunately, COVID made it go under just because it's up here, and I'm still a member of my Cromwell Club in Connecticut. And I'm still a member of that club after 10 years because it's a good, tight-knit club. You know, most of the friends that I've made in Toastmasters, I actually made originally through that club. And even though they're not... you know, and even though, you know, some of them aren't members anymore, we still keep in touch. I mean, I was chatting with 4 of them this afternoon on Facebook, for example, that I haven't seen for a couple of years, but I met them through Toastmasters. So enough.
Yeah.
And I would say, as kind of a statement about the lack of stuffiness, Heather gave the funniest speech and most informative speech I've ever heard in my life. And it's a shame she doesn't compete with the speech. So Toastmasters does a lot of speech competitions. And Heather, I hopefully know what speech I'm talking about. She's a culinary chef, and she decided to tell us about all the knives that you can own. and why you should use each knife and what the purpose of this knife is. And so she brought...
Sounds like a person you should keep happy.
And she brought a table full of knives, and she's like, and this knife does this, and you're gonna... She only brought one. Okay, whatever. It was amazing because it was such a interesting speech. We learned so much about knives. I mean, everyone in that room walked away understanding what is the purpose of a knife and how you use it and what you should look for in a knife. So there's education aspects involved with it. And again, that's not a stuffy speech by a long shot. David,
and this
I didn't mean it how it came across.
No, you both protest too much. I'm gonna nail Brian with that one though, because this is why I like Toastmasters, is because we can always elaborate. You know, if you tell a story, it doesn't have to be 100% correct, and nobody's gonna get on your case about it. So I like all these knives that he brought up. Well, no, it was one knife.
Okay. Well, I was just raising my hand because she got in a little bit of a commercial. Type online presenters into Google, and I unless Google's just being nice to me, we're the top result. So, and that is Mondays at 7:30. It is an international club with about 60 members, which is large for a Toastmasters club and has an international membership. So we're meeting 7:30 in the evening, and my friend Graham tunes in from Australia as a lunch break or mid-morning or something. I don't have all the time zones figured out. So stop by. But the reputation issue, yeah, I'm convinced that everybody who has not been to a Toastmasters meeting thinks it sounds like a bunch of people standing around and giving each other PowerPoint presentations. It sounds like the driest, most boring thing in the world. And I'm not saying that never happens. Depending on who's standing up to speak that day. But it can also be very lively. And
that's with anything, right? It doesn't matter.
You make friends through it. Yeah, and it's it is a community. Might not be quite on the same frequency as the one that we're talking about here today, the Twitch community.
But that's like Twitch kind of fits definitively with anything. You can find a category, you can turn a camera on, you can do it. You can do it live right then and there. I've seen people make candles. I've seen people make like fake acrylic nails. I've seen cooking streams. I've seen video games. Like that's what's so cool about it. So I really do see I could definitely see a platform for you to be able to house it on Twitch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's even another category. And I think on top of housing it on Twitch, Craw, I think, wanting to connect the two while housing it on Twitch, maybe you find people who are on Twitch and want to be more comfortable speaking publicly, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube or a Facebook Live, a YouTube Live. I think there's a lot of possibilities for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the reasons why I feel that this conversation is important to have, because I think there's benefits for both the Twitch community and for Toastmasters as a whole. Toastmasters can benefit from this concept of understanding what does the camera look like and what does the world behind you look like. And how do you interact with just a camera? When I made the transition from giving speeches in person to speeches in front of the camera as a Toastmaster, it terrified me because this was the first time in my life I could not see the audience's reaction to what I am doing. And I feel like Heather and David and Chantelle and Jesse can all react to that. Your times you're doing something, you're like, please let this work.
I will say I'm the weird one in that, because radio broadcasting was all theater of the mind. There was no seeing your audience. There was no ever really seeing their reaction. You were putting it out there and praying to God that it wasn't boring and awful.
And so I think from that regards, for Toastmasters, coming here to Twitch is going to give you more experience with that. If you're a Toastmaster and you want to get more comfortable doing that, you generally have an hour a week, maybe an hour every 2 weeks. That is your Toastmasters meeting. But Twitch, I mean, Jessica, how many hours do you stream a week?
little bit more lately. Probably, I'd say about 40 hours a week.
Chantelle?
So when I first started, I was doing, I believe it was 55 to 60 a week. And that just started to really, between trying to watch and be present in my community and trying to stream didn't work for me. So we're down to, I usually do 3 or 4 hour streams 4 days a week. So anywhere, depending on how the gaming is going, anywhere from about 20 to 40 hours a week as well for me.
Yeah. And I get 6 hours a week. And for David and Heather, the thing that I'll point out to is I get 6 hours a week of table topics. Right.
Table topics is impromptu speaking.
Yes. So for the benefit of our Twitch audience who knows nothing about the Toastmasters meeting, let me kind of go through what a Toastmaster meeting looks like. There are basically 3 types of roles in any Toastmasters meeting. And Heather and David, please correct me if you feel I say anything that's terribly wrong. You have what I'm going to call a host role. You have a role of people who are doing prepared speeches. And then you have evaluators. We also have a section called Table Topics. Table Topics is an impromptu speaking section of the meeting where you stand up, you're asked a question, and you speak on that topic for 1 to 2 minutes. Now, you can veer away from that by carefully dodging it like a politician being asked a question about the most controversial thing that they shouldn't have just recently said. But that's conceptually what Table Topics is. And so when I'm saying this is a 6-hour table topic session, Jesse and Chantelle, would you agree that that is the skill that you're practicing when you're doing live streaming? Speaking
Very
off the
much
cuff.
so.
Absolutely. And making sure that your off the cuff is appropriate, because it's going to live potentially for a while. And it's really easy in the moment when you're frustrated with something or something's happening to say how you feel without really thinking. And that is dangerous in the world of live. And I'm grateful because, again, with radio, I never ever say anything while a microphone is near my face that I wouldn't say if it was on. Because I've had technical issues before and I've had things come through that I didn't think should from my previous career. So I try to carry that. But sometimes when you're on hour 4 and you're trying to make this jump from this left-hand side of the bridge to the right side for the 89th time in 5 minutes, it's really hard to make sure that what you're saying maybe won't come across wrong. And so I think that would be a skill that you're constantly developing too while you're streaming and while you're live. Sort of like editing yourself and air checking yourself almost.
Yeah, and you have to do it naturally too. So I think it took me a little while because I had never done it before. So you're thinking about your reaction to what's going on before you're reacting, because you really do have to be very conscious of what you're saying and what you're doing. And, oh, hello.
Hi, Molly.
Molly Ann. But I think it's huge, and you really have to just constantly be thinking about it while also trying to be yourself. There's a lot of juggling, but I do think I do say a lot of things that I would naturally say, just because I am trying to be myself as well, but I don't take it too far.
Yeah. And I also think there's an art to, this is where it's weird, because it's exactly what you're saying, Jesse. Like, you want to be yourself, you want to be real, but you need to be careful, because there are things that you're going to feel or believe that could really deeply upset and offend. And, a lot of people are like, oh, we live in such a soft generation. I actually really like that. I enjoy that we care about not upsetting people or not making them feel, like they belong in this specific set of group. Like, I like that we're more of a be who you want to be, do what you want to do. But that just means that you kind of have to check yourself a lot more. Just because you know someone's screen name doesn't if they're anything. You just don't know about their life. And even you don't know you don't know that what they're telling you about your life, their life is necessarily fully true either. So if you've got somebody who just recently lost somebody and you make a joke about oh, I just want to kill myself or something, you just really have to be careful of how you could make somebody feel. And when you're live like that for so long, there's just so many more chances for that to go the wrong way. And at least that's what keeps me up at night.
And we've seen it, but absolutely, it's table talk.
Cancel culture is real.
Hours.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I have the added benefit where Heather and David may not know this. I often am streaming with my kids. So, for instance, yesterday I was assembling a treadmill with my kids. And my kids are running around the area where I'm constructing it. They're holding the camera. They're like putting it in their faces. They're just being kids. And when you're trying to be a parent and stream and put together a treadmill, there literally got to a point where I said, hey, everyone, I know we're not done with the treadmill, but we need to go raid someone now. And I think
because we got to keep the balance.
Because
Right.
I am not going to yell at my kids on stream. That's just not kosher. And so I think the idea of benefits for Toastmasters to get into this live streaming world, it's about stepping outside your comfort zone. It's about making sure that you are doing something that you feel uncomfortable doing. And that's why I think from a Toastmasters perspective, moving into live streaming, and the reason I use Twitch is because that's the platform I'm on. I am not on LinkedIn Live, despite how many times I've requested Microsoft let me broadcast on LinkedIn. I'm not on Instagram Live. I'm not on Facebook Live. And I'm not on YouTube. I'm here on Twitch. That's why I bring Twitch. But I think Toastmasters can benefit from being live on any one of those platforms, except LinkedIn Live, because they won't let me broadcast them. Screw them.
I think too, it's maybe paramount to mention, like, there are a lot of people out there that just don't know where to start. They don't know how to begin. They know, I wouldn't be that great at this yet, but I want to get better. How can I do that? You can't go to school for public speaking. You can't go to school. Well, I mean, you can do some programs. Yes. Don't get me wrong. Yes. But like for lowly Canadian in Southern Ontario, me, there's not an option like that in the 4,000 person town I grew up in. Right. So having the potential to be able to like find a place where you're like, okay, I want to see if maybe I have something here. Maybe I'd be good at public speaking, but I don't know, and I need some help to know how to be good at it. That would be a really great like foot in the door for people who maybe don't otherwise know how locally to like get involved. Your local radio stations don't exist anymore, and if they do, they're recorded from a big city. There's nowhere to go knock on the door and try to cut your teeth on things anymore. So if you don't want to just go live on the internet and flop, Toastmasters might be a really great second option to that first, right? To kind of like get your feet wet and get going with it.
I'm glad that you're connecting the dots that I connected when I said I got to set up this panel of 4 people who can talk about this.
I'm here because I believe you and I agree with you. I wouldn't have come if I didn't think that we could make this point.
Absolutely.
So we're here to talk about talking.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, because that's ultimately what this is about. This is ultimately what it is. And I think one of the things that I enjoy so much about Twitch is the randomness. I mean, David, Heather, you saw me bring my dog out at one point, and I'm pretty sure Jesse and Chantelle knew exactly why I brought my dog and held it up to the camera for a second and let it
Channel
go.
points!
Exactly. So in the chat, people who are watching you, they get little points for every minute that they watch you. And at the bottom, you can say, hey, do this thing, redeem these points, and I will have to do something for you. So, for instance, right now, if someone wanted to, they could make me go get my dog and bring it on camera for 312 points. For 600 points, I will chug something. If someone really hates me, oh, good, I did not turn that on. That's an upcoming channel point. But for 10,000 points, I will speak in German and only German for 10 minutes. I'm glad I turned that off for this stream, because that would have been really awkward for everyone. But that's what I mean. Those are the types of things you can do. But that adds to the randomness factor of it, of how do you interact. And
It gives your audience a chance to in real time interact with you, get to know more about your life, get to know more about who you are personally. And again, that's a benefit to Twitch. They're physically making a game out of people connecting to you. I've never been able to be somewhere where the place that I work is actively trying to create loyalty with the people that are my audience. And that's invaluable.
And Chantelle and Jesse Cake have both redeemed Aloha. Thank you very much for doing that, both of you. Yes, and Geeky Girl, who's my moderator, is saying she wishes she had the points to redeem Gatorhead because, for those who do not know, I was the mascot at my college, San Francisco State, the Golden Gators. And my senior year of college, they asked me to donate the old Gator mascot suit to Goodwill. And about that time, I acquired a full-size alligator costume. Those are completely unrelated events. And so I have a big gator head that I'll wear on stream if someone redeems enough points. So
I'm so upset I don't have more channel points right now.
Now,
yes.
Craw, I have a question for you, if
Yes.
that's okay.
Go ahead.
Because I know we spoke earlier about, why you got into Twitch, but I'm curious how you got into what was your push into Toastmasters?
I got into Toastmasters 10 years ago. I was in a dead-end job going nowhere. I was doing tax reporting for Mass Mutual Life Insurance Company. And it was a job where from January through April, I was doing 120 hours worth of work a week in a 40-hour work week. It was the most stressful thing. But then from April until January, we had about 4 hours worth of work a month. And we had a full-time job. And believe me when I say you can reach the end of the internet. You can get to a point where you cannot surf the internet anymore. And it took me about 3 months where I got to the end of the internet and I was like, what else can I do? And it was about that time that I went to a fair that they had on campus, because Mass Mutual is a big company, 3,000 employees, one building. And there was a table, and there was a guy I knew from like 3 rows over who I just kind of knew, and I went and I talked to him. And I said, sure, let's do this. So I went to a meeting, and I was like, these guys are all lame. I had David's exact reaction. I thought this was the dumbest thing. I'm a better public speaker than all these fools. Why am I going to bother? And then Mass Mutual has a big culture about employees bettering themselves. And 4 months later, I'm sitting with my boss and we're coming up with ways that I can better myself. And I had no desire to get any tax reporting education. I had no desire to do anything that's actually going to help my job. So I said, I'm going to join Toastmasters, because being a slacker, I said, what's the one development thing I can do that I know I'm going to be naturally good at? Public speaking. And so I went there, and believe it or not, despite the fact I was a cheerleader for the Golden State Warriors for 3 years, I danced at the NBA All-Star Game in an alligator costume, and I was a radio broadcaster in San Francisco for nearly a decade. I threw up in the bathroom before I gave my first speech in front of 18 people in a conference room at Mass Mutual. I was that terrified of what I was going to do, because I had no idea.
I would never have guessed.
I didn't know that,
Me
Brian.
either.
You
I
never
was
told me that story.
Terrified about what was going to happen, because I didn't know what to expect. All of a sudden, I was going to be talking in front of peers at work, and they were all going to know what I had to say. And when I got back to my cubicle, were they going to be talking about me behind my back? All of these things.
Let them talk.
Right? I had this fear. I mean, Jessica, how mortified would you be if you're working and all of a sudden they roll me in on a gurney and I'm like, do y'all know who she is?
Oh, God.
Right?
Jess was like, I would die.
I'd start running.
Right? Same thing with you, Chantelle. If I came into your business, like, oh my God, do y'all know who you work with?
My work would be like, not shocking. She never shuts up.
And congratulations, by the way, we finally read the community challenge goal, 100,000 points raised for Ready Player 2. That means coming up, Sam, my son, my 8-year-old son,
excited.
will be hosting us playing
He's going to be so excited.
Fall Guys. He has watched so many people play Fall Guys. He has never played it himself, and he thinks you guys are all idiots that you can't be better at this game.
Yeah, we'll see, Sam. We'll see.
I mean, I haven't gotten a crown, so.
Me either.
Sam's
I
convinced
put
he's
a
going to get a
shameful
crown the
amount of
first time he
hours.
touches a controller. It's going to be entertaining. So David and
excited.
Heather just let you know Fall Guys is a video game where people run through an obstacle course and they fall down.
It's like Wipeout, the TV
like
show,
Pitfall.
but a video game.
Yes, and it's very, very frustrating for a lot of people who have played it. And my 8-year-old just doesn't understand why it's so hard. You just got to run the course. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, we'll find out.
He'll find out very quickly.
Or he's going to put us all to shame, and I'm going to go cry for a while because I can't figure it out.
So our community, when we were talking about channel points, bringing the dog in front of the camera, if you don't want to make me bring a dog in front of the camera, you could donate points to that. And then collectively, we have 100,000 points to make Sam the host of my show for a night.
Speaking of your channel points, too, it's a really great point for David, who was asking earlier, like, what sets Twitch apart? things like the channel points where you're automatically, without spending any money, without doing anything, just the fact that you're giving me your time, which honestly, as a streamer, your time is my most valuable asset. It's what it means the most to me. And you're being rewarded for that. And I don't have to, it doesn't cost me anything to then entice you to stay longer and to keep you basically involved and interactive with what I'm doing instead of just watching me, right?
Yeah. So for the benefit of Heather and David, I want to talk about the Toastmasters education program, because I feel like we've talked a lot about the benefits of Twitch and the benefits of Toastmasters. What is the education program? And I'm going to start by asking David, because I mentioned this thing in Icebreaker, the first speech. Can you explain, David, what an icebreaker is and why we do that as the first speech project?
Sure. An icebreaker is an activity that you do probably hundreds of times during your life. Every time you go to interview for a job or introduce yourself to a new group of people, you have to explain who you are and what you do. So it's a 4 to 6 minute speech about you. And that sounds like a fairly easy thing. Apparently, for Brian, it wasn't at one point. I mean, I guess the other thing that I've seen, in my home club, my brick and mortar home club, when we met in person, everybody who gave an icebreaker and made it to the end got a standing ovation, sort of a ceremonial standing ovation. And the program's changed a little bit over the years. It used to be that you got a standing ovation at speech number 1, you got a standing ovation at speech number 10. And it was just to reward you for the fact that you made it through the end of the speech. And sometimes the standing ovation might be a little bit more enthusiastic if you gave a really good speech, but mostly we're trying to reinforce the fact that you were courageous enough to do it. And what I always told people about the Toastmasters experience is this is where you come to try out stuff in front of a group of friends. You're doing this among friends. You can go out and do it later after you've had some practice in front of people who might judge you a little more critically and professionally. And that's great because you're going to be better when you get to that point. But first, it helps if you can do stuff among friends. And so that's a large part of it. And so from there, you work on different aspects of public speaking. So you have projects that might be more oriented towards understanding the importance of body language and vocal variety and all these different dimensions of what makes a good presentation. Use of presentation materials or PowerPoint or slides, getting comfortable with all those things. And eventually, hopefully, you start to bring it all together.
Yeah. Now, Heather.
And then along the way, you're also learning how to evaluate and give feedback to other people that they'll find better in terms of getting better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No problem. And Heather, I was going to ask you, David had mentioned the idea of being judged. One of the things that I think is the hallmark of Toastmasters, and I find that the absolute most frustrating thing about Twitch, is there is no feedback in Twitch unless your chat tells you what is happening that's wrong. And when you're first streaming, you don't have a chat. You do not have an audience. People don't just magically show up to watch you unless you are doing something that is noteworthy, you look interesting. There's many reasons which we can talk about later, but Heather, can you talk about the feedback portion of Toastmasters?
Absolutely. And to touch on what David was saying, we say Toastmasters is a safe place to fail. So it's a great place to not be judged, but to give great feedback and to get great feedback. I actually wished when I was an executive chef that I had joined Toastmasters, because it would have made me a better manager in terms of being able to give constructive feedback versus critical feedback. I used to throw plates at people. People were like, really? I'm like, yeah, I was not a very nice person back then. But it's great to be able to tell Brian, for example, who's a fantastic speaker. I mean, he's competed at the district level, but you're as bad as I am, Brian. He's like, you tell him something positive, he's like, no, not me, not at all. But he really is a great speaker. But anytime even if you're a fantastic speaker, there's always something that you can learn and improve on. I mean, when I joined Toastmasters, I was in it for maybe 3 years, and I was working on my speeches, I was working on self-confidence, and it's not just experienced people that can give you really crucial feedback that you can improve on. It's our district director now, Andrew Watt. He came his very first meeting. He was my evaluator. And I used to pace when I used to do a speech, and I used to pace a lot. And every time someone gave me feedback, they're like, that was a great speech, great content, great, vocal variety, great body language. But, you pace a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And so his very first evaluation was he starts out with, well, I noticed you pace a lot. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he said, I have something that might help. And I went, oh, thank freaking God. And he goes, I have a suggestion. He goes, why don't you stand in one place and talk for like 1 or 2 minutes, and then go to another point in the room and talk for 1 or 2 minutes, and then move around here and talk for 1 or 2 minutes. And I went, holy crap, that's freaking awesome. And just because of that feedback from someone that hadn't been a Toastmaster, but he'd been a public speaker before in different professions that he did, he just coming in from the outside and having that observation and giving that to me in a non-critical way, that was like manna from heaven, literally. But anytime, even the most experienced speakers out there can always give you those critical little touch points that can make you a more convincing person, or make you a better mentor, or make you a better coach, or make you a better streamer. So if I was to tell Chantelle, for example, it's funny because she kept apologizing about the stuffy old guys, but that's something that if I was to give you an evaluation about that in Toastmasters, I would say leverage that. Don't apologize for that. Wrap that
I'm Canadian. It's in my blood.
But wrap that up and tie it with a bow. But it's helpful when you get constructive feedback to give you a specific. So anybody can tell someone, for example, you're really lacking on eye contact. That's not constructive. That's just feedback. One of the things that I love about Toastmasters is getting that constructive feedback and saying, well, I noticed that you were only looking at this half of the room, or for example, in the Zoom perspective or on streaming, I noticed that, in my particular case, I just bought a big monitor. And I spent like 2 hours trying to figure out where on earth to put the camera. It looks like you're not looking at the camera. Maybe you could try this or this if you haven't tried it before. So giving people some suggestions to work on. It's definitely very personal. It's one person's opinion. I could say, well, yeah, that works great. And that other person might think, well, yeah, not so much. But it's still something that you can try and work on, which is why I still love it, because I'm always still learning things every single meeting I go to.
So, Heather, what types of evaluations do you get? Is this a spoken evaluation? Is this a written evaluation?
You get generally both. You get a written evaluation that generally gets passed to you. In the old days when we were meeting in person, it would get given to you at the end of the meeting. Now it can get emailed to you. But there's also a verbal evaluation. We also have something that I try to take advantage of when we can, called a round robin, which means that it's not just one person giving you feedback. You're actually going around the room. So if you had 15 people on Zoom, for example, they're all giving you 30 seconds of feedback about one thing that they particularly like, or maybe that they thought you could improve on. And as you become a more experienced speaker, having that mass feedback is actually more helpful. Because when you're in a Toastmasters club, you're getting used to the same people giving you feedback all the time. And sometimes that's a detriment, actually. That's why I like to go visit other clubs and, have other people evaluate me, because it's great to have the fresh perspective. But when you do a round robin, you're getting that little bit of feedback from multiple people about the same thing. And sometimes it differs, which is kind of fun to see.
Now, David, is the speaker we're hearing is getting feedback. Is that the only feedback about the speech, or is there other elements that people are hearing back about their use of crutch words, their use of grammar, how long they took, things like that?
Yeah, usually there are a couple of functionaries in the meeting. You'll have a grammarian, and you'll have something called the counter. And the counter is supposed to count all the times that you went or ah, or kind of stammered your way through stuff. And that well, I think he's calling on me because I am usually the champion of the Oz, the Wizard of Oz, at any meeting.
No, I'll call on you because I figured I want to make sure you brought that up.
Well,
I used to make. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There is supposedly some communications research that says that the verbal discontinuities, I think they're called, is like the technical term, actually help with communication as much as they detract from it, except at some point, if people are doing it constantly, then it would become a distraction. So you have to keep some balance between the things that actually make a difference versus the things that are just kind of verbal footfalls. But go ahead, Chantelle, I'm sorry.
When I was learning broadcasting and I was like brand new to it, so we just started learning about crutches. Mine was like, it said like after every word. And it's funny because what I ended up doing was I had roommates. I had 3 roommates. There's 4 of us living in a house. And they all knew if I say, like, if I, things like that are those crutches that we do for comfort, they'd just start patting their head while I was speaking. And by the end of about a week, I'm not joking, those crutches were all gone because when there was like that physical indicator of you're doing this, I started finally hearing it in myself. But it took something that ridiculous, whereas maybe Toastmasters could have just helped me be aware of it in the first place.
It hasn't worked for me. I'll have to go back and watch myself on the video recording to see, did I really say 20,000 times during the course of a meeting?
Uh-oh, she's keeping track. So for me,
all right.
I was kidding.
I think it's time for me to sign out of this meeting.
I was totally kidding with that. I actually wanted to say that this is the one downside that I found in 10 years in Toastmasters meetings, and I completely was not keeping track of ahs and ums. But it's the one thing that when you are Toastmaster for a while and you're sitting at a workshop or a conference or a webinar, you're sitting there unconsciously on a piece of paper making hash marks.
Right. When Obama became president, he did a fair amount of umming and ahhing and talking very slowly. Yeah.
I had a professor in college I used to tally. It's like, got so distracted by it. I would just tally it all up.
That's the only thing with crutches is if it is something that someone's aware of or if they start to hear it, they're not going to pay attention to what you say anymore. They're just going to start going 17, 18, 19.
Right?
You can't help it. Your brain just works that way.
Yeah. For me, I was in a club that had someone who rang a bell. So it became very Pavlovian for me to bing. When you're doing a normal Toastmasters meeting and you hear 20 minutes later that you said 5 times, like, great, cool. I'm getting aware of it. But actually, that bell in that moment.
One of my first streaming experiences in Toastmasters, we were trying to do Facebook Live to show how wonderful our club was. And somebody was ringing the damn bell. And it's like, no, we're trying to make a positive impression on people. Don't scare them off. Oh, well.
Aloha, Geeky. Thank you very much for redeeming the aloha. Jesse Cake, is there anything that you feel when we're talking about this concept of public speaking in Toastmasters and Twitch that you feel is an opportunity? Is there something that you feel is a growth for you as an individual or just your community as a whole?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting because I personally had never heard of Toastmasters, though it's in my state, possibly every town. I had never heard of it. Now I'm saying and I'm hearing it. Hold on, I'm just gonna grab her and get her over here because if I pet her, she won't bark at me.
No problem. Get the dog. Trust me. Go always and go get the dog. So the one thing I definitely want to talk about when we're discussing this concept of public speaking, and David kind of alluded to it earlier, the idea that what is the end game for me? I think he's wondering, is this something that I feel is a broadcasting for a club? And this is a question kind of for Jesse and Chantelle. The reason I'm changing where I'm pointing is they have moved around on my screen. Thank you very much, David, for turning off your camera on me. Do you feel the idea of broadcasting a meeting on Twitch is something that people would want to watch other people do?
So I don't know. Do we have Jesse back? I'm not sure, but I'll answer first. Okay.
back.
Well, I'll just
But
quickly.
you can answer
I'm pretty
too.
green.
Yeah.
So Jesse might have more knowledge on this than me. I would think, yes, there will definitely be an audience. The only thing is I would argue that potentially there may not be a consistent audience that shows up week over week for it, right? Like they may be people that are here once in a while to grab what they can from it and then leave, versus being there like every single meeting like they would be in an actual meeting situation. Having said that, I think if you structured it where you have all your members, but then like anybody can just come and participate in the chat, you actually might end up with an even bigger group than you would have potentially been able to tap otherwise. So I think like some drawbacks, some pros, if that makes sense.
Jesse?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I believe that, it's definitely something that would have to be marketed, because Twitch has become very, very saturated.
Yes.
And to make it known could be difficult at first. I do think it's definitely possible, though. And I think that if you were to get something like that, maybe you have friends who know you're part of Toastmasters and just don't really know what to expect. Same thing, Carr and David, like you had said, at first you were like, whoa, what's going on here? Do I really want to be a part of this? That's a great way to showcase what Toastmasters is over a live stream. They can join in, they can watch, one of the meetings virtually and really understand what goes on behind the scenes and behind the faces at, the stand that's broadcasting it or whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it takes away that pressure of having to be there then. You're not having to join this in order to figure out what it is. You don't have to like get out of your comfort zone and show up face to face just to see what it's about. You can kind of get a taste for it. And if you decide it's not for you, the fact that there's no pressure there might actually help bring people in as well.
Yeah. Now, Heather and David, having heard their opinions on if there's a benefit to having a Toastmasters club on Twitch, do you guys feel that from a Toastmasters perspective, broadcasting our club meetings to the internet in that type of forum, do you feel that that is something that would terrify new members or encourage new members?
Well, I mean, you'd probably be fine with the people at Online Presenters because we've made that part of our culture. When the club was started, one of the first things was, do we record our meetings, or do we only record them occasionally, or only with people's permission? And we just decided to make it a cultural part of how that club operates. We make an announcement at the beginning of every meeting. This is being recorded. It'll be shared out afterwards, unless you have some really good reason why, unless you specifically request that something be edited out. We've done that occasionally. Generally, we post all those replays, and they're available for the world to see. And we're telling you coming in that we're going to use this as part of our club marketing material, just that we're gathering all this content. We can share it out on our website and share it out on YouTube. So I don't think streaming is necessarily a big thing. We haven't made the effort to do it on very many occasions. On some educational programs that we have done streams for sort of like an overflow crowd, where the Zoom was only good for up to 100 people. And so to make sure that we could accommodate potentially a larger crowd, we would do a simultaneous Zoom stream, or we would invite people who tune in. We would do Facebook Live on a few occasions. We would invite people that you can come into the Zoom meeting and you can participate a little bit more. But we got a slightly larger audience that way. So as something to experiment with, great. But I don't know whether just broadcasting out, and we could do it in terms of broadcasting a weekly meeting, But it might be better to do some special event, a humorous speech contest, something like that, that
Yeah, I
might
think
have
that's
more
a
engagement.
great idea.
Yeah.
Like a panel of 5 people talking about it is a special event. Heather, what are your thoughts? I want to get your thoughts on this.
I think I agree with David. I know that my Cromwell Club, for example, would probably be game for it, but they'd probably be a bit nervous because most of them, I don't think, have live streamed. I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think most of them have. A lot of them are still getting used to just being on Zoom, period. Mm-hmm. But I think live streaming on Zoom would be actually kind of fun if we set it up something interesting, like primarily maybe table topics and had gamer topics, for example, just to maybe resonate a little bit more with the crowd we're speaking to. I'd be willing to play with that a bit. It sounds like fun because this is definitely the wave of the future. The more we can embrace this technology and get more accustomed to it. I guess I'm technically an old fogey being of the late Gen X crowd, but to me it's still interesting. There's so many new opportunities out there that are coming down the pike, and the more we can get used to these, the better off we're going to be, whether it's on a personal level or a business level. So yeah, I think I'd be game for it, and I think it'd be interesting to explore.
So one area that I think is important for Twitch people to be successful, to grow your channel, is to be very adept at social media. Jessica, would you agree with me?
Absolutely. And a lot of streamers, very successful streamers, will say the same. There are people who come to them and ask, what should I do to get big on Twitch, or to have more viewers, or to hit affiliate? And having other platforms, it's just a major component. Yeah. What are you doing on TikTok? What are you doing on YouTube? What are you doing on Twitter? What are you doing on Instagram? And I think Toastmasters, it seems like they have these other platforms. So Twitch would be an added platform, goes the same way, because they all intertwine. Somebody finds you on YouTube, they want to watch your live stream, they want to know more about you, or they want to know more about Toastmasters.
So for engagement, you're watching the chat, and then you would respond out loud to the audience. Is that
exactly?
Yeah, and not always. You have Twitch streamers who have literally hundreds of thousands of people watching them live at one time. There's no humanly physical possible way to mention every sub, every bit, every person, right? So what they'll do is, like, when they see names they see often, they're like, hey, thanks for coming back, or things like that if they notice them. So there is the implicit you have to interact. But certainly if you're going to be just starting out, you're going to want to interact, because you want people to keep coming back.
For larger events, it can help to have, wingman,
a mediator or something.
Somebody
definitely. That's what I was
watching
thinking
the
of.
chat for you and highlighting. And actually, in the online presenters Toastmasters Club, we have a chat monitor who's supposed to be paying attention to the chat while other people are paying attention to the speech. So if something comes up, they can alert the Toastmaster of the day that some terrible technical difficulty is happening, or just relay questions.
Yeah.
So Twitch, actually, something you maybe wouldn't be familiar with, they have moderators. So every channel, every channel has their mods. For me, 2 really close friends of mine that are there all the time, like they're community members, but they're always there. And then my husband. Those are my 3 mods right now, because they're the ones that are awesome and that I can count on them to always be there. But there's lots of things that could happen. You could get like spam links in your chat, someone that comes in and says something inappropriate, so you definitely want to have eyes on your chat that aren't you, because you're going to be distracted, and at times there'll be things that you just don't want to have get missed.
Yeah, and I want to give a special shout out to my mod Geeky, because I am paying attention to y'all and not the chat, and my monitor Geeky right now is doing a phenomenal job monitoring the chat, so thank you very much. Jesse, would you like to talk about your wonderful mods too?
Oh, my mods are wonderful. If anybody's here, hello. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys. I have a good group of mods. And like Chantelle said, it's so important because you want to keep your chat safe. But something else I thought of, if you ever wanted to broadcast, is something like, how Twitch Rivals and Heather and David, Twitch Rivals, they have two streamers or multiple streamers competing, depending on the game, competing against each other, and there's a moderator and a presenter or a host almost who in between games is talking out to the chat and letting them know what's going on. So it would be awesome if there were someone in between speeches who was, introducing the next speaker or something like that, even if it was just virtually. That's something that I find that Twitch Rivals is very successful with, because they have someone entertaining in between the matches.
Heather, would you like to comment about someone who might be the master of ceremonies in a Toastmasters meeting?
Yes, we call them the Toastmaster. Funny thing about that. We usually refer to the Toastmaster as the MC of the meeting, and that's what they do is they start the meeting, they introduce the functionaries, timer, odd counter, grammarian. Sometimes we have things word of the day, sometimes we have a invocation, which is not religious, it's just like an inspirational saying. Sometimes we have a joke master. Some clubs I've been in, we actually have a body language master, which is actually quite fun, especially on Zoom. Definitely makes you look at some things. But what the Toastmaster does is they introduce each of the speakers. They usually have a little bio, just like Brian did, to introduce us. And then they also introduce the general evaluator, who takes over from them. And then the general evaluator introduces each of the evaluators in turn and asks for reports. So there's always kind of a chain of command that goes back and forth, but there's always very much that introduction. And I love being Toastmaster and I love being General Evaluator or GE, because it does give you the chance to be fun. Instead of being serious, I like, making a little levity at the beginning of the meeting, especially, and I think that definitely could find a home on Twitch, is just making everybody like we've had a really long day. We're completely Zoom fatigued out. We don't want to look at anybody else. We don't want to be online. But, I still go on meetings after a really hard day when I feel like crap, quite honestly. And I'll go on because it's fun for a couple of hours. I feel like it's not a chore. It's not work. And I think that's what a lot of people are not really realizing. And it sounds like Twitch is might be a fun place to hang out. I don't think I want to explore it too often. Otherwise I can get any work done though.
Honestly, Twitch is it's funny. I'm hearing so many similarities. And so obviously this is exactly what Brian's trying to articulate, right? But certainly I would argue the same thing. There are days where I don't feel it. I don't want to play video games and stream and chat with everybody. But within 5 minutes of sitting there, I feel like an entirely different person. I feel like myself again. You just really have to just do it. And when you're there, it almost, I think, because I'm not working right now. So this is my job, if you will. It would be great if it could actually be a job that is monetarily supportive enough one day where I could have it be a job. But for now, I have days where I'm like, oh man, I'm at this hard part in the game. I'm not really, or something personal happened or whatever. And because you're on camera, you're live, how you are, how you feel, it's going to come across. And if you don't think you can put your best foot forward, maybe make that decision. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, once I get there and I just do it, it's so enjoyable. And it's something that very quickly turns my mood around for me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that. I usually broadcast on Wednesday nights. And last Wednesday, I was supposed to hold a panel where we were talking about mental health. It was a primer for this panel, and I was like, I'm good, right? I was like, I could not go on.
You do need to be able to make that call sometimes, for sure.
And so I called everyone individually and said, I'm so sorry, but if you're not paying attention, turn on the news. We can't have this tonight. And they all understood. Yeah. And then I ended up streaming anyway because I decided to play Lego Star Wars because I wanted something fun and light. And it was entertaining. It was my way to release. But absolutely, I mean, Jessica, I think you can talk about that as well. The idea that sometimes this helps you, but sometimes you're like, I just can't.
Yeah, and sometimes I do have to just say, just do it, like Chantelle said, because once I'm there and I'm present, it really does turn me around. But there are just some days that I know I won't be able to entertain you, and I need to just say I got to take the day off, and it's for the best because I'm not mentally here today, and without mentally being there, it's hard to. Sometimes it is hard to put your foot forward, but sometimes I push myself and I don't regret it after the end either. So it's a balance.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
sure.
there's a difference between like I'm tired from work, I really don't feel like it, and like I had to, say goodbye to my grandmother today, or like there's definitely varying
exactly.
reasons, right? So when I say that, I mean the days where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like it, but I really don't have a good reason. Push through,
It's
but
just like
but
the
you're
corporate
right.
world, taking
Yes.
a personal day, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, and it's getting to be, it's normalizing, right? People
Finally
need mental health days. They need personal days. It's okay to take one, especially this year.
Oh.
David, have you ever taken a personal day from Toastmaster?
Last year.
Personal day. Yeah. What you mean? Isn't like
for the same reason that like Chantelle and Jesse.
As I said, my first club that I joined meets 7:00 on a Friday morning, and so usually I go there and I'm enthusiastic to be there, and I say it starts my day off right. But then there are some times when I'm up late on Thursday night and say, you know what, I think I'm going to sleep. But that's true. I wanted to ask something about Twitch. A lot of what you describe is about going live and sharing an experience. And so sharing the gaming experience is a big one. But BDC, you also mentioned something about putting together a treadmill. So this was like an unboxing video. I don't know. I guess I got to watch your channel. But what's the variety of things that you do?
You don't have to watch my channel. Let's just start with that obvious thing.
Okay.
2, I think there's 3 categories of streams you're going to find on Twitch. And Jesse Cake, Chantelle, please call me out. There is the video game stream. There is the I wish I was a broadcaster television stream, right, where you are having this is my friends and we're talking about what happened today in the NFL and we're going to show highlights and we're going to do analysis. And then there's the in real life streams, the IRLs. Yeah. And the IRL streams are the things where it's like, hey, I'm going to put together a treadmill today. And while there is that aspect of I'm putting together this thing, watch me fail at it, ultimately, this was an opportunity for me to talk to everyone about what are my health goals for 2021. So I promoted it early on Instagram. Here's a picture of a big box. What's in this box? Tune in today at 3:00. See me open it and find out what I'm going to do to make my 2021 a little healthier, right? Those are the types of things that you can do from a social media programming standpoint. But ultimately, it can be anything you want. There's a guy called the Donut King who makes donuts every morning at 3 a.m. and broadcasts himself doing it.
There's a lady who broadcasts herself running. Night. Sorry, what?
Oh, no, you can go.
There's a lady I saw that was literally just broadcasting herself working at a cafe, making people's coffee orders. There's like 20,000 people watching it.
Yeah, people live stream at work.
Yeah. It seems strange, but like to kind of simplify for you, David, you go live, but you select your category and there's all kinds of tags for that. So you can tag it as like role playing, open world, a first person shooter, cooking, crafters and making, unboxing is another one, physical, like working out. There's all kinds of them. And so it's really just about making sure you include those tags and you get that right category so that people who are browsing for that can find you.
And
it sounds like a good way to challenge yourself, but do you ever have to bail on one of these experiences because it's actually really not going well?
I've had it go awfully, yes.
Yes, let's start with Jesse. Please tell me the story of where it went wrong.
So I was having a celebration stream. Another awesome part of Twitch, which we really haven't mentioned tonight, and I know, Carr, you do a lot of charity, is charity, right?
Yes.
Because it's a place where you can hype up raising money for charity.
Absolutely.
And the Just Dance community, every year we do a dance-a-thon for charity where we raise money for St. Jude. And my original goal for St. Jude was to raise $200. We raised $2,500. And when we hit $2,500, the incentive was to stream me cutting my boyfriend's hair, his precious hair. And now chat can distract me. I'm in love with my chat. Okay. I read my chat. It distracts me. So I think he has the piece on the shaver and he thinks I put it on. And I go to cut just the middle of his head for no reason at all, the middle of his head. And I shave he has beautiful hair, a very large piece of hair off of his head. And now my boyfriend, he doesn't filter himself. And, we talked about how you might not want to react a certain way. Well, he starts freaking out on stream. I feel terrible. I'm like, we crack up about it now because I shave it and I go, oh, that looks really short. Well, I ended stream immediately. And that was the biggest
oh no,
fail of my stream. But we raised $2,500 for St. Jude. And he looked
That's
really
what matters.
well, so
Yeah. And if
great.
you want to see
Well
more
done.
live stream fails, go to Reddit. There's a whole subreddit called Live Stream Fails.
Oh
live
my
stream
God.
fails.
That's just
Although it's
filled
become
with
a little
that.
bit more than that now, but yeah.
Yes. That's precisely it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
That was my live stream fail.
Yeah.
Deleted the VOD. No, it didn't make it there.
You have those moments you just wish you could delete, but it's live.
And I'm so glad it didn't make it out into the internet anywhere else.
Yeah.
It was
That's
deleted.
what I like about video editing is you can edit out your I have edited out individual ums and ahs, by the way. That's one. That's my retroactive revenge on the ah counter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think editing is about putting your best foot forward, and there's certainly space in Twitch for the realm of editing and things of that nature. But for the most part, the idea entirely of Twitch is being in the moment, living your life, and allowing to have other people do it with you and celebrate those milestones with you. And so, as embarrassing as they can be, I think for us as content creators, those moments, like the clips that I just want to die and delete because I just can't believe I said that, or out of context, that sounds so wrong. But those are the things that make my channel entertaining, and those are the things that people find so funny. So I guess here I am, dance monkey dance, and that's okay.
Dance Monkey is a quite popular song right now in the Just Dance
Oh, I
community.
didn't even mean it like
This is
that.
true.
I meant
This is true.
the saying sense of I'm here for your entertainment, so you're welcome.
My
I
brain
guess.
went where yours did, Cross.
Exactly.
Dance monkey. Love that one.
I love that song.
I started as a Just Dance streamer, and the idea is, again, you're broadcasting yourself dancing to a video game. And right now, Dance Monkey is a big song, and it's in the game. And
it's a great song too.
Okay, so Brian, you're gonna have to share a video of you dancing to Dance Monkey. I have to see this.
I don't broadcast Just Dance anymore. I have moved on from that.
Why not though? I need to know why not, because I loved watching you.
So
You do have your trailer.
I do have the trailer. So I was broadcasting from my Xbox using the Kinect sensor, and Jesse will understand that. And they took away the ability to use the Kinect sensor as a camera. And I don't have...
And that's what you were using.
Yes, I was using my Kinect sensor for my camera. My PC setup is up here, and I do not have I've got a very good computer, but lacks one key thing, Wi-Fi. My computer does not have Wi-Fi built into it. That was a fatal flaw. So until I can figure out how to get this downstairs to my area where I would dance, or get my area where I can dance into this room, which is...
Not big enough.
Inches across.
Get the USB Wi-Fi connector.
Yeah, we can work on that.
What I'm hearing is Carl doesn't want to dance on the internet anymore.
Maybe I'll still
love
dance.
me some troubleshooting.
Oh, okay.
So
We're here for you.
If people want to see me dance on the internet, please go to my YouTube channel, where I have uploaded, I think, 18 routines from when I was a cheerleader with the Golden State Warriors. So
I'm going to go check it out right after
more
this.
than welcome to see me shake what my mama gave me. So
That's why I love your channel trailer. So Heather, you can find the dancing there.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm gonna find him and needle him at the next Toastmasters meeting when I visit. I'm gonna say, Brian, I think this needs to be a speech, and you need to give us a demo.
Thank you so much. All right, so I think we've had a great conversation. This has been really wonderful. I want to thank every single one who have you been here. I want to end it by asking you, what has been the biggest takeaway from you today? What is what you want to do next, and how can I help support you and hold you accountable if there's anything that you want to grow and do anything with? So let's just start with Heather Turner. Heather Turner, what have you learned from this, and how can I support you?
I learned a bit more about Twitch. I signed up for it. I still have absolutely no idea of what I'm doing, but I'm going to explore it.
One of us.
You gave me a follow. I know that much.
I think I followed Jessica Cake and Chantelle. Right? Is that the right name on there? Okay. So to me, I think that's interesting because I'm always looking to explore new channels. I mean, I teach social media for a living. So I actually, because this came up recently and I didn't really know that much about it, I think I have a little bit better handle on it, but I want to investigate it more and see what else you can do with it. But listening to you guys was great. Well, yeah, it is. To me, this all ends up in that bucket. Sorry.
For sure. I get what you mean.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think from the perspective of just listening to you guys talk about what you do and the audiences and just the types of things that you do and your perspectives, I think from I'm not that I'm elderly by any means, but I think it helps just to get another perspective from a slightly younger generation. And just because you guys are younger does not mean you are any less wiser than we are. It's nice to get that because, so many people have so much knowledge to share, and just getting to listen to you guys has been an absolute blast. I really want to thank Brian for inviting me to this because this was definitely eye-opening and it was definitely fun. It was a great way to spend this. Was it Wednesday? I lost track of time already.
Jessica, what's your biggest takeaway from this, and how can I support you?
Well, I definitely want to say it goes both ways. Heather and David, it was very nice. Carr, thank you for connecting us, because I myself, like Heather and David, I had no idea what Toastmasters was besides my Google when Carr had reached out to me. I had looked into it myself because I didn't want to go in too blind, but it's definitely been super interesting. I think I would definitely I know myself after speaking with you, I'd love to see a live stream meeting. I want to see what they look like. I know you've described them, but hey, maybe I'll join Heather's club.
You can come and visit anytime. No obligation to join. Just come and visit us.
I definitely am interested because, like you said, someone and Carr, you were someone who was really good at public speaking going into it, and it was your slacker way, but really it seems like you truly got something out of it. And though it does take a person who's willing to take something out of it, I think it's interesting. I've always felt comfortable publicly speaking, but I can't say that I haven't had those, tingles, those nervous tingles before a presentation. So once I got up there, I felt better. And I definitely think there are things that I could take away from some sort of education in public speaking that could absolutely help, my streaming career and help me grow into the streamer that I want to be.
David, what's your takeaway, and how can I help you? Support you.
Well, we'll work on how you can support many different things. You'll get told about those things later.
I expect my payment in the mail in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking that even though I'm somebody who writes about technology and researches social technologies and collaboration technology, I'm not necessarily an early adopter. I don't get into things until I see why they might be interesting or useful to me. So this has been good at giving me a grounding of understanding what this community is. There's some professional reasons why I actually should learn more and haven't gotten around to doing it yet, including the idea that maybe some of the things about this environment ought to or have lessons that could be applied to the world of work as well. And so I'll have to explore a little bit more. I definitely will. But Toastmasters was the same thing. Again, the first meeting I went to, I didn't know that this looked at all that interesting. I had to connect with the right group of people at the right time when I saw how it would make sense for me. And I think that's something that you're maybe doing also for the Toastmasters community to help them understand why this is something worth their exploring.
Cool. Chantelle, I got to ask you the same question. What's your takeaway and how can I support you?
So for me, definitely a different perspective on Toastmasters. I had that 4-hour seminar, and that was really my experience with it. And my experience was, ambassador of the fair. So etiquette as a lady and how to present yourself politely and not opinionatedly, which we all know. If we know me, I'm so great at being ladylike. But I have a different perspective of what Toastmasters, of course, has to offer. Same to echo everybody else, really. Thank you, Carl, so much for inviting me. Thank you for even thinking of me, because I'm someone that averages maybe 15 people hanging out with me. So definitely still a greenhorn, definitely a small streamer. But thank you for believing that I have something to add to the conversation. And in terms of support for me, this might sound really cheesy to say on your stream, but I have the chance to say something on your stream, so I'm taking it. You do support me, dude. You've been supporting me since before I was even affiliated, when I did have 0. And you came and you hung out and watched me play EA golf, because I didn't even know what streaming really was yet. And so day in and day out, I can always count on an aloha during my stream. You're always there. So thank you so much for that, because like I've said previously tonight, time really is the thing that means the most to me. The fact that people are willing to give up 20 minutes of their day to come and say hi and hang out is a cliche thing to be thankful for, maybe, but something I'm really grateful for. And so, you already support me. And if you ever have feedback, or you ever think hey, she does this a lot and it's really not funny, she just thinks it is, send me a message. Don't let me look stupid. That's what I ask.
Constructive criticism. I'm looking for it.
Yeah, no, and when I think myself, what my big takeaway is, I had a vision when I set this panel of what I expected Toastmasters on Twitch would look like, and I don't have that same vision anymore.
Yay, I love that.
I don't have the same vision, because it's hard to really quantify what Toastmasters on Twitch looks like outside of if we did Toastmasters, is it the right place to take Toastmasters people and bring them to Twitch, or is it to take Twitch people and bring them to Toastmasters?
Mm-hmm. I feel like Toastmasters and Twitch people are one and the same, we've realized, right? You've got 4 people with the gift of gab who like to hang out, who are great at socializing. Turns out maybe we all belong together.
well, taking on that concept, is this really a thing where it's existing Toastmasters clubs promoting themselves on Twitch? Or is this more saying, because I heard Jesse and Chantelle both saying, hey, I want feedback on my streams. Mm-hmm. Do we build a Toastmaster club exclusively around your
That's $1 million idea.
There
you go.
Shh. I'll put it out there.
End stream, delete VODs.
Right? Because when we talk about the feedback, the type of things where you can say, hey, Craw, that gold thing you got there is distracting. Maybe you shouldn't put that in your background. Someone's going to dox you because your name is on that. Right? Those are the types of things that we can talk about. And I think that is that feedback, that there's value there. So that's my big takeaway.
Brian will never hide that.
So you're going to start this club?
I don't know if I'm going to start this club.
You're going to put in the pre-charter paperwork
I don't know if I'm going to do
next
that.
week?
Okay, so Brian,
Yeah.
so because I'm working on my 3rd DTM, I need to sponsor a new club.
Okay.
Hint, hint.
Okay. We will.
Things are coming together. I'm feeling it.
The 5 of us will probably do we'll have conversations, but no, it's one of those things. When I first said, hey, I want to do this, there was the reason of, I want to make sure that there's something that I can build out of this. It's a great conversation, but if we don't go from here, we had a wonderful 2 hours, and That's really all I could say. So thank you all for being here tonight. This was a lot of fun. I am very honored and touched that you guys felt that you wanted to be a part of it. I want to thank every single person who watched and participated, whether you're cheering. Thank you so much for the biddies, Chantelle. Chantelle, you thought you could do it slick and not have me see that. And for the benefit of Heather and David, that's part of the ecosystem of it, is that people can donate money. Not donate, let's be very clear. They can give you money through either a subscription or through what's known as a bit, which is roughly 1 cent, to help you economically, to support your channel that way. Those are things that people can do. So thank you very much for everyone for being here. This was a lot of fun. And so I'm going to say...
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Aloha to all of y'all.
You guys.
And aloha
Nice
to the
to meet
chat.
you.
I'm going to
Nice
turn
to
off
meet
the
you
chat,
guys.
but I'll leave the Zoom on in case y'all want to keep talking for a couple more minutes.
Okay.